Welcome to episode 7 of Kevin Across America. This week, I've taken a detour down to Buenos Aires, Argentina. My American Airlines red-eye from JFK to Buenos Aires touched down on a rainy Wednesday morning in Argentina's capital city. I made the 3-leg, 16-hour journey for my girlfriend, Jess. Jess was born in Venezuela and moved to Argentina when she was 23. She lived in Buenos Aires for nearly 10 years before applying for and ultimately winning the so-called green card lottery. She immigrated to America in May of 2020 during the dawn of COVID. Lucky for me, she settled in D.C. Jess's mother, Norka, brother Pedro, sister-in-law Karen, and 5-year-old nephew Samu all live in Buenos Aires. Jess, who flew down 1 week before me, hadn't seen any of them in 22 months because of the pandemic. At 400 feet, Buenos Aires reaches far beyond what the eye can see. With a population of nearly 16 million people, Buenos Aires is the 4th largest metropolitan area in the Americas, trailing only Sao Paulo, Mexico City, and New York City. Buenos Aires may be located deep in South America, but it has a rich European influence. Café Tortoni is a prime example. A French immigrant opened the coffee house in the mid-1800s. What was a gathering spot for artists, musicians, and intellectuals now pulls in gobs of tourists. Hillary Clinton, Susan Sarandon, Robert Duvall, and Albert Einstein have even visited Café Tortoni. The 165-year-old cafe has circular marble tables, dark oak wood walls, a $1.5 million Tiffany glass ceiling, colorful Tiffany lamps, and hundreds of old framed pictures. In addition to serving traditional food and drinks, Café Tortoni hosts jazz and tango artists, book and poetry contests, plus billiards, dominoes, and dice games. This is Casa Rosada, also known as the Pink House. It's Argentina's version of the White House, though unlike in America, the president works here but doesn't live here. Casa Rosada sits on Plaza de Mayo, the city's oldest public square. The Buenos Aires Metropolitan Cathedral is a stone's throw away. This is where Pope Francis performed Mass before he assumed office at the Vatican in 2013. The cathedral also houses a guarded mausoleum for General San Martin. Martin helped liberate Argentina, Chile, and Peru from Spanish rule during the early 1800s. To the east of Casa Rosada is the Puerto Madero district. Developers turned old brick warehouses along the dockside into upscale restaurants and stores. Sleek skyscrapers now house major corporations and luxury apartments. El Puente de la Mujer, Spanish for the Woman's Bridge, is a major focal point. Spanish architect Santiago Calatrava designed the bridge to swing open to allow boats to pass by. The bridge's steel needle is around 111 feet tall. Jess's friends hosted a backyard barbecue for us one night. Afterward, we hit a few bars in the popular Palermo neighborhood. Our first stop, The Hole, a speakeasy that's made to look like Alcatraz. The cover charge was around $15 US. It included 2 sugary bottled alcoholic drinks. The attention to detail reminded me of something you would see at Disney or Universal Studios. The booths were made to look like individual jail cells. The bathrooms, like solitary confinement. There's even an old-school gangster car with an Illinois license plate that reads Capone. After failing to get into a New York subway-themed bar because it was packed, Jess and I had a nightcap at this little club. Bright, cheerful breakfast cafes and red meat-heavy restaurants are entrenched in Argentinian culture. Jess and I made a point to start every morning at a different cafe. We ordered staples like lattes, glasses of orange juice, yogurt parfaits, and media lunas, Argentina's take on a French croissant.
That's chorizo.
Chorizo?
Chorizo and that's asado.
Argentinians consume red meat and red wine like Americans do hot dogs, hamburgers, and Budweiser. One restaurant served us 3 cuts of meat and provoleta cheese on a portable grill, plus 2 side salads. Perhaps our best dinner was at Don Julio, a Buenos Aires institution since 1999.
Our oldest bottle of wine is from 1923.
Martin Bruno is the sommelier who explained Argentinians eat quite late.
Here, people eat 9:30, 10:30, even 11:30. Like the grill is open until 1 a.m. That sounds like really late for some parts in the world, but here it's not so crazy.
Jess and I ordered a bottle of red wine to accompany our steaks and fig salads. It's common to have salsa criolla, chimichurri, and salt on the side for extra flavor.
Back here is where we keep the wines that are aging.
After dinner, Martin gave me a private tour of the Don Julio wine cellar.
And here, for example, is some of our older bottles. Like this is a Malbec from Norton, 1964. And maybe here this is 59.
Don Julio keeps its cellar at 54 degrees Fahrenheit and 65% humidity to prevent its wine bottles from aging prematurely. Pretty neat being able to work in this atmosphere.
It's amazing. It's for a sommelier, it's like Disneyland because, we have all sorts of wines. We have things that are from, big, iconic, historic producers like Norton, for example. And then we have things that are impossible to find, like per se, and we have a very good collection.
There's nothing quite like home cooking, though.
Lemons and salt.
Jess and her 2 brothers grew up with Syed Abad outside of Caracas, Venezuela. Syed now lives in Buenos Aires with his wife, Arielis, and their daughter, Aranza.
This is beef, picanha. This is chicken.
Argentinian barbecues are carnivore marathons. That's because the grill master typically serves 1 or 2 meats at a time.
This is ribeye and this is it.
Syed's barbecue had what seemed like a dozen different cuts of meat. Take one?
Yeah. And cheese.
Syed's salsa criolla and chimichurri were off the charts.
This is chips de leña.
Syed posts many of his meals on Instagram and takes personal orders on the weekend. Jess's brother Pedro drove us to Tigre one afternoon. The area, about 30 minutes in the car or an hour on the train, has served as a weekend refuge for porteños for more than a century. The heart of Tigre has historic homes, tree-lined rivers, and boat tours. We went to a newer development called Nordelta. This is where the 1% of Argentinians live. High-rise condos with rooftop terraces and sparkling blue in-ground pools sit along significantly less aqua-colored inlets. Looking at some of the homes, you'd think you were in America. We enjoyed a nice lunch on a sunny afternoon before strolling around a dock filled with luxury boats and then heading back down to the city. This is Argentina's congressional building, and to say the government was unstable during the 20th century would be a gross understatement. It had a failed war with the UK, the government was rife with corruption, and during the 1990s, around half of the country's population was impoverished. And many people say now in 2022, things are still far from good. For example, in July of 2022, Argentina's year-over-year inflation was around 70%. That instability has made the US dollar king. Trust me, it will go very, very far. Despite generations of political and economic upheaval, many Argentines continue to enjoy an educated, cultured life. Buenos Aires is often referred to as the Paris of the South, with fancy sidewalks, Art Deco theaters, and more psychologists per capita than any other nation in the world. The San Telmo neighborhood is full of narrow cobblestone streets. Its Sunday street market draws large crowds with countless booths selling art, antiques, clothing, and trinkets. We saw a magician performing tricks in the street and a man making fresh squeezed orange juice. San Telmo's indoor market is open 7 days a week. An Italian immigrant designed the structure in 1897 for the wave of Europeans coming to Argentina. Strolling past its many food stalls and shops below iron arches and glass ceilings is like stepping back in time. Here are a few other must-visit spots across Buenos Aires. La Recoleta Cemetery is famous for its hundreds of above-ground marble crypts. They contain the remains of the city's wealthiest families, including Eva Perón. Perón was Argentina's first lady for 6 years before dying of cervical cancer in 1952 at the young age of 33. The 1996 movie Evita, starring Madonna and Antonio Banderas, depicts Perón's life. Flor Genérica is a short 15-minute walk from La Recoleta Cemetery. The steel flower sculpture sits above a reflecting pool in a gated park. The architect designed the sculpture to mimic a real flower, its petals opening in the morning and closing at sunset. Unfortunately, during our visit, the sculpture appeared to be broken. Avenida 9 de Julio is the widest avenue in the world. It's around 460 feet across with 18 lanes at its greatest point. The street is named in honor of Argentina's Independence Day, July 9th, 1816. An obelisk sits in the middle of the avenue. Constructed in 1936, it's a little less than half the height of the Washington Monument in D.C. Large electronic billboards, a nearby theater district, and this police substation reminded me of Times Square. El Ateneo Grand Splendid was once a theater that hosted ballets, operas, and tango singers. In 2000, a publishing house converted the space to a bookstore. The ground level, where the audience once sat, is now filled with bookshelves. Box seats are now reading nooks, and the stage is a cafe. The theater maintains its dim lighting, burgundy-colored curtains, and ceiling mural painted by an Italian artist. Nápoles Bar in San Telmo is worth a visit even if you don't order food. The restaurant, which has a mix of Argentine and Italian cuisine, is filled with vintage furniture, statues, motorbikes, and racing cars. The owner is an antique dealer. We ordered cocktails and a few appetizers before watching this man hand make different types of pasta, including gnocchi. Jess and I used a lot of taxis to get around Buenos Aires, and they were really cheap. I'm talking like $5 to cut 30 minutes across the city. Buenos Aires also has a large modern metro system. It opened in 1913, making it the first subway not only in South America, but in any Spanish-speaking country. Today, the Subte, as it's called, has 6 lines and more than 85 stations serving the most popular neighborhoods. A one-way ticket is around 25 US cents. Not bad, but do keep a close eye on your valuables as pickpockets are known to target unsuspecting riders. The Subte also gets pretty hot during the summer months of December, January, and February.
Yeah, a little restaurant here inside.
A couple of days before flying to Santiago, Chile, Pedro drove us to a large COVID testing center. Unlucky for us, the staff was using those long nasal swabs that make it feel like your brain is being punctured.
Oh my God.
Later on, we picked up Jess's nephew, Samu, at school. It was Samu's 5th birthday. And so we watched him open gifts at home before going out to lunch at a museum's courtyard restaurant.
Sí, llegó la reina de América.
After you. On our final night in Buenos Aires, Jess and I went out to dinner with a group of her Argentinian friends. We shared a traditional plate consisting of thinly breaded beef, ham, fried eggs, and French fries. After enjoying some gelato, we said goodbye to Jess's family. Argentina may have dropped from the first to the third world over the last century, but it remains a cultural mecca. If you visit, just remember to bring some Spanish, your walking shoes, and an empty stomach. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, and leave a comment below. My next stop, Santiago, Chile. For now, from Buenos Aires, Argentina, I'm Kevin, across South America.